Imagine sharing a daily 90-second habit with Albert Einstein.
Oh, that's quite a hook.
Right. And the best part is you don't need a chalkboard, you don't need a lab, and you certainly don't need a degree in theoretical physics.
I'm relieved to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, you literally just need a pair of feet and, well, the willingness to radically change the way you walk to your car.
It's a really striking proposition, honestly, because we are so conditioned to picture historical geniuses locked in this deep, inaccessible thought.
Right, like totally detached from reality.
Exactly. Completely detached from the mundane routines of our daily lives.
Hmm.
So the idea that one of his most powerful intellectual habits involves something as basic as walking, I mean, it almost feels like a contradiction.
But today's deep dive is pulling from a source that completely shatters that illusion of the detached genius. We are diving into an excerpt from Rhonda Byrne's book, The Magic. Yeah, and specifically, we're looking at day 19 of her program, which focuses on a concept she calls magic footsteps. Our mission today is to explore how moving physically through the world while practicing a very specific form of gratitude can rapidly shift your mindset.
Which is such an interesting concept.
Totally. And we are going to break down the exact daily routine this text prescribes. Okay, let's unpack this, because whether you are listening to this deep dive right now on a crowded commute or walking your dog in the park or just sitting at your desk looking at a spreadsheet, this is a tool you can literally use the moment you stand up.
Yeah, the portability of this practice is what makes it so compelling.
Yeah.
It doesn't demand a retreat from the world. It actually requires you to engage more deeply with the world you're currently moving through.
Right.
But before we get into the literal physical mechanics of how to execute these magic footsteps, we really need to examine the philosophical foundation,
Mm-hmm.
because the inspiration behind this specific practice is rooted in a highly specific quote from Einstein.
Yes, and the text provides this quote, and it really sets the stage for everything that follows. I'm going to read it directly from the source because, the wording is incredibly deliberate.
Go for it.
Okay, so Einstein said, 100 times every day I remind myself that my inner and outer life depend on the labors of other men, living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measure as I have received and am still receiving.
What's fascinating here is how the text frames that specific reflection. The author isn't just presenting this as a nice, humble thought from a smart historical figure.
No, not at all.
She frames it as a magical secret to his success. If you look closely at what Einstein is describing, he is taking gratitude, which most of us experience as a passive, fleeting emotion, like feeling mildly pleased when the weather is nice.
Right, like, oh, nice, it's sunny today.
Exactly. But he elevates it into an active, rigorous cognitive discipline. 100 times a day, he is actively forcing his brain to recognize human interconnectedness.
I look at that quote and it immediately makes me think of that famous concept of standing on the shoulders of giants. The idea that any great achievement is built on the foundation of those who came before you.
Definitely.
But Einstein's approach feels entirely different in its intensity. It's one thing to vaguely acknowledge that you're standing on the shoulders of giants. It's another thing entirely to actively tap those giants on the shoulder 100 times a day and say, hey, thank you.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And he isn't just talking about other physicists. He's acknowledging, like, the people who grew the food he ate, the laborers who paved the roads he walked on, the mathematicians whose centuries-old formulas he was using.
But that acute awareness of the invisible web of labor is the crucial element. The text is suggesting that this discipline wasn't just a quirky byproduct of his genius, but rather a catalyst for it.
Wow, okay.
It functions as an antidote to the myth of the self-made genius. By constantly reminding himself of the massive influx of value he was receiving from the world, he fueled his own internal drive to exert himself.
So it's a cycle.
It creates this powerful, almost inescapable psychological loop. If I am receiving this much from the world, I must output an equal amount of value.
The author of The Magic takes this mental framework, this intense, disciplined intellectual gratitude, and translates it into a physical action for the rest of us.
Because we aren't all trying to solve the theory of relativity.
Right, thankfully. But we can all leverage that same psychological loop. So how do we take this 100 times a day concept and put it into motion?
Well, the literal technique laid out in the text is brilliantly straightforward. You take one step, and in your mind, you say the magic words, thank you, the exact moment your foot touches the ground.
Okay, simple enough.
Then you take the next step, and as your other foot makes contact with the pavement, you say thank you again, One foot, thank you. Next foot, thank you. You continue generating that phrase with every single footfall.
To give some context to the sheer volume of time we have available to do this, the text includes a rather confronting quote from the writer William A. Ward.
Oh, I like this one.
Yeah, it's intense. He said, "God gave you a gift of 86,400 seconds today. Have you used one to say thank you?"
It completely reorients your perspective on time. 86,400 seconds. We let thousands of them slip by unnoticed every single hour, usually just lost in mental static, scrolling on our phones or whatever.
Totally, just burning time.
Taking just a fraction of those seconds to intentionally generate gratitude seems like the bare minimum, yet it's a cognitive habit most of us entirely neglect.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The extreme flexibility of this practice compared to how we usually think about mindfulness.
How so?
Well, traditional gratitude or meditation practices often require you to hit pause on your life. You have to find a quiet room, sit on a specialized cushion, close your eyes, and tune out the world.
Right, which is why people say they don't have time for it.
Exactly. But this practice is designed for friction. It's designed for motion. The author points out that you can take magic footsteps while you're dragging the trash cans to the curb. You can do it walking to an ATM, heading into a high-stakes job interview, or navigating a crowded airport terminal.
Yeah, you don't have to stop what you're doing.
The author even mentions utilizing the walk from her bed to the bathroom in the morning. I'm just picturing someone looking entirely normal on the outside, maybe carrying a bag of garbage, but internally they are running this intense Einstein-level gratitude algorithm with every step.
That internal versus external contrast is a great point. It integrates seamlessly into the life you are already living. You don't have to carve out an extra hour in your day. You simply repurpose the mandatory transit you are already doing.
Which is brilliant.
Now, the parameters the text sets for this transit are specific, but they are also deeply forgiving. To achieve the most effective result, the book suggests maintaining these footsteps for about 90 seconds.
Just 90 seconds. That is an incredibly low barrier to entry. I mean, anyone can do 90 seconds.
It is, and the reasoning behind that specific duration is mathematical. 90 seconds is roughly how long it takes the average person, walking at a leisurely, relaxed pace, to take 100 steps. The goal is to mirror Einstein's habit of reminding himself 100 times a day.
Wait. I'm stuck on a paradox here that the tag presents.
Okay, what is it?
So, Einstein did this exactly 100 times. The author tells us to take 100 steps, but the text also explicitly commands us not to count the footsteps. It literally says, don't count the footsteps when you're doing the practice because you'll be counting instead of saying thank you.
Right.
How does that work? If I am trying to hit a quota of 100, my brain is automatically going to start counting. Am I supposed to just magically know when I hit the threshold?
It's a completely understandable point of confusion, like take 100 steps, but whatever you do, don't count to 100. Sounds like a Zen going.
Yeah, exactly.
But the text offers a very practical, mechanical resolution to this. The advice is to simply figure out your approximate distance beforehand. You don't need to overcomplicate it. You just need to know roughly how much physical ground you cover in a minute and a half of normal walking.
Ah, I see. So if I know that walking from my front door to the mailbox and back takes about 90 seconds, I just use that physical route as my boundary. I don't need to know if it's 98 steps or 104 steps.
Precisely the intention. Once you have that physical distance established in your mind, you can let go of the mathematics entirely. You aren't thinking step 41, step 42.
Right, because then you're just doing math.
Exactly. If your working memory is occupied with numbers, it isn't occupied with gratitude. The text is very clear this practice is not about hitting exactly 100 steps on the nose. It's about ensuring you take at least that number.
Because you need that volume to get the effect.
Yes. The author asserts that 100 steps is the minimum threshold required to actually make a noticeable physiological difference in the way you feel.
So, what does this all mean? We know the historical inspiration Einstein's mental habit. We know the physical mechanics, 90 seconds of stepping and saying thank you without tracking the numbers.
Yeah.
Why should you, the listener, actually implement this today when you walk to the kitchen or head out to grab lunch? What is the actual emotional alchemy happening during those 90 seconds?
Well, the promises made in the source material regarding the emotional payoff are incredibly bold. The author essentially guarantees a tangible shift in your emotional state.
Like a guaranteed mood booster.
Pretty much. The text states clearly that if you are feeling down, these magic footsteps will reliably make you feel better. And if you're already having a great day, the footsteps will act as an amplifier, lifting your spirits even higher.
Okay, that sounds great, but
It's framed as a universal emotional escalator, regardless of which floor you happen to be starting on.
the part that I found most reassuring was the author's caveat for the days when you are just completely drained. Let's be real. If you are having a terrible day, maybe you just got some bad news, or you spilled coffee all over your laptop.
The worst.
Right. The absolute last thing you want to do is try to summon a feeling of deep, overflowing gratitude. It feels,
Oh,
you just feel angry.
yeah, it feels forced.
But the text argues that the feeling isn't a prerequisite for the action. It says, it doesn't matter if you can't get much of a feeling of gratitude while you're taking them. I promise you will still feel happier afterward.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of how human psychology operates, what the text is essentially asserting here is that physical action can forcefully override emotional reality.
Which is huge.
It is. We often fall into the trap of believing we need to think our way into a new way of acting. We wait for the motivation to strike or for the bad mood to lift before we change our behavior.
I do that all the time.
We all do. But this practice flips that entirely. It suggests you can act your way into a new way of thinking.
That makes total sense when you consider what happens when we're in a bad mood. We tend to ruminate. We just spin the same negative thoughts over and over in our heads. It's a closed loop.
A very exhausting closed loop.
But if I am forcing myself to coordinate my physical steps and simultaneously forcing my brain to generate the phrase, thank you, on every single heel strike, it seems like I literally wouldn't have the neural bandwidth left to keep obsessing over the spilled coffee.
That is exactly the mechanism at play. It's a masterclass in applying cognitive load.
Cognitive load.
Yeah. The human brain has a finite amount of working memory. When you are stressed, your brain dedicates all that memory to ruminating on the stressor. By committing to 90 seconds of rhythmic, physical movement and pairing it with a mandatory cognitive task, generating a specific word in time with the physical strike, you are artificially breaking that negative feedback loop.
Because you just can't do both at once.
Right. You are starving the rumination of the cognitive resources it needs to survive. The mechanical repetition literally clears the mental static, not through magic, but through neural redirection.
It's an architected behavioral intervention. You don't have to fake a positive emotion, you just have to do the physical rep. You take the step, you generate the word, you treat it like a mechanical exercise, and the emotional state eventually catches up to the physical action.
It completely removes the pressure of having to perform perfect gratitude.
Yeah.
You don't need ideal Zen-like conditions. You just need to walk.
Now, these magic footsteps are clearly the centerpiece of Day 19 in this book. But they don't exist in a vacuum. The source material embeds this 90-second burst within a highly structured daily routine.
The whole system.
Yeah, if you want to utilize this exactly as the author prescribes, we need to look at the full recipe. There's a specific 4-step checklist at the end of the chapter for magic practice number 19.
To fully understand the author's methodology, we have to examine this holistic approach. The footsteps are the active engine, but they are supported by a broader daily architecture.
Step 1 of this daily practice happens before you even start walking. It's a morning routine called Count Your Blessings. You sit down and make a physical list of 10 blessings in your life.
Simple enough.
But the crucial detail is that you don't just list the items. You have to write down the specific reason why you are grateful for each one. Then you go back, reread your list, and at the end of each blessing, you say the words, thank you, thank you, thank you, and try to generate as much feeling for that specific blessing as you can.
This is all about establishing a cognitive baseline for the day. Before you expose yourself to the unpredictability and stress of the outside world, you are intentionally priming your reticular activating system to scan for positive inputs.
Okay, that makes sense.
And requiring you to write down the why is a brilliant safeguard. It prevents the list from devolving into a mindless, repetitive chore. When you have to articulate the why, you are forced to actively engage with the reality of the blessing, rather than just going through the motions.
Which perfectly utilizes the primacy effect. You are dominating the first thoughts of your day. Then we move into step 2, which is the core of what we've been discussing, taking those 100 magic footsteps for about 90 seconds in gratitude at any point during the day.
And step 3 serves as the vital reminder of the mechanics for those footsteps. With each step, you must consciously say and feel the magic words, thank you. You are actively aligning the internal cognitive word with the external physical action.
That brings us to the final step, step 4, which happens at the very end of the day. The text dictates, just before you go to sleep tonight, hold your magic rock in one hand and say the magic words, "Thank you," for the best thing that happened during the day.
Ah, the magic rock.
Now, the excerpt doesn't give us the full backstory on the magic rock from earlier chapters, but it sounds like it operates as a tactile anchor. It's a physical object you keep by your bed to tie the abstract feeling of gratitude to something you can actually touch.
This raises an important question about the overarching design of this entire routine. If you step back and look at the structure of these 4 steps, the author has essentially architected a gratitude sandwich for your waking hours.
I love that framing. A gratitude sandwich. You are exploiting the edges of your day.
Exactly. You start your morning by mentally and physically counting your blessings on paper. That's the top piece of bread. Then, the meat of the day, the active component, is the footsteps.
That's where you put it to work.
Yes. You take that static, written list from the morning and you activate it physically by moving through the world, stepping and generating that phrase. You are putting the gratitude into motion when you're most likely to encounter stress. And finally, the bottom piece of bread, grounding the entire process at night, is the magic rock practice.
By using a physical object right before sleep, you are leveraging the recency effect. You are anchoring your mind to the single best thing that happened that day, ensuring that a positive memory is the last cognitive process your brain engages in before drifting off.
It's a comprehensive psychological system. You wake up focusing on what you already possess, you move through the day acknowledging the interconnected world around you, and you go to sleep focusing on the highest point of your daily experience.
It covers all the bases.
It really does. It's designed to bookend your day with heavy intention, while utilizing the 90 seconds of footsteps to maintain that positive momentum during the messy middle of the day.
The messy middle, that is exactly where this tool is most vital. When the emails are piling up, when a meeting goes entirely off the rails, or when you're just stuck in the rain waiting for a bus, that is the exact moment you deploy the 90 seconds.
That's your emergency break glass tool.
Exactly. To quickly distill everything we've unpacked today, the core takeaway from this source is that for just 90 seconds, by taking roughly 100 steps and silently generating the words "thank you" with each footfall, you can emulate the daily cognitive discipline of Albert Einstein.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. You don't have to stress about counting the steps. You just need to establish a rough distance. And most importantly, even if you are entirely devoid of positive emotion in that moment, the sheer physical and cognitive load of the action acts as an instant neural reset button. It's guaranteed to break the cycle of rumination and leave you feeling better than when you started.
It is a remarkable reframing of human movement. It takes something as deeply ordinary, as completely invisible to our conscious minds as the act of walking, and transforms it into a highly effective tool for mental discipline and emotional elevation.
It truly is. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder as you go about the rest of your day. We've spent this entire time dissecting the internal psychological shift that happens when you put gratitude into your footsteps. But I want you to imagine, just for one day, that this internal shift had an external reality.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Imagine that every time you took a magic footstep and silently generated that phrase, it left a visible, glowing footprint on the ground behind you.
A literal physical manifestation of the cognitive work you were doing.
Exactly. Imagine turning around at the end of a long, stressful day and looking back at the path you walked. How bright would your trail be? Where would those glowing tracks lead? And how many mundane spaces, grocery store aisles, office hallways, sidewalks, would be lit up by your 90 seconds of intention?
That is a beautiful image.
And most importantly, how might seeing that visible, glowing trail of gratitude change the way you choose to walk through the world tomorrow?